So, you've started an anime figure collection and have now decided that your wallet just doesn't deserve to house any of those things you call money anymore. Where do you go from here? Holy Grails! Because for everyone, there is that one or those handful of figures that you just want but either can't get due to lack of availability, can't afford it, or are just waiting for a good deal to pop up. And thus, the Holy Grail was born. Now, I have a pretty sizable collection, but even for me, there are a few figures that, well, either I just can't get anywhere, or are just too expensive for me to justify ever buying them. But before we continue and I tell you some of mine, I want to know what your guys are. What figures have eluded you for so long, or what figures are just so expensive you can't justify them, but one day, that's right, one day, they will be in your collection. The first one for me is our good friend Shirakami Fubiki from Hololive Gamers. Now, this figure was only released last year in February 2022 by Luminous Box, and yeah. This figure went up for pre-order, I believe it was late 2019, early 2020, and was actually before I got into Hololive, because I got into Hololive via a certain doggo stream. Now, the thing is with this particular Fubiki figure is it does actually come up from time to time to buy on AmiAmi and other sites. However, there is a slight problem. Fubiki came with a defect on her base that had to have a promotion to be corrected, and they just don't seem to send you a fixed one if you buy it pre-owned. Now, correct me if I'm wrong on that fact. Now, the issue was just something small. However, if I'm paying expensive aftermarket prices plus expensive shipping, I want it to be at least the fixed version. Which unfortunately means getting a corrected version of this Fubiki figure is even more difficult. Now, there has been the odd one or two on AmiAmi. However, every time it does come up, she's always got something broken. Either her ponytail or the hair up here, the flick. The next one is Melia from Xenoblade Chronicles. Now, Xenoblade is probably my favourite game franchise after Zelda, and I recently completed Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and it's one of my favourite games of all time. Now, this one is one I should have in the collection. I absolutely adore Xenoblade Chronicles. It's one of the most important series to me. However, when Melia went up for pre-order, I was in the process of being made redundant, and I didn't really want to spend my redundancy money without having any job security. So things like figures just kind of went on the shelf, and I went cold turkey and didn't buy anything. Fortunately, that blew over. However, I missed the pre-order period at that point. However, while I see this one from time to time on AmiAmi, there is now a further problem. Shipping. Over the last few years, shipping has doubled, if not tripled, compared to what it was. And with no end in sight for the return of stuff like SAL, it's just making things a lot more difficult. EMS or DHL can sometimes cost the same as a full-on Nendroid just to get things shipped out. I should know. I've got an IMA figure coming, and she cost a pretty penny just to get shipped, and that's in a regular box. Melia, she looks like from her design that she's going to have a pretty huge box, which puts me off even just touching it without knowing how much it's going to cost to ship. The next one comes from one of my favourite manga and anime series, Tomoko Karaki from Watamote, otherwise known as No Matter How I Look at It, It's You Guys' Fault, I'm Not Popular. This is one that I see come up time and time again. She's not particularly rare, it's just she's out of print, she's never going to get a re-release. And unfortunately, she's one that whenever somebody puts her up for sale, it's always over £100, sometimes missing one or even more of the accessories. I can't justify over £100 for a pre-owned Nendroid at all. while on the topic of Nendoroids, I'm also going to mention that I'd really like to own both Estelle and Ren from Trails in the Sky. These were released back in 2012, which was well before the series took off in the West, but of course, I doubt it'll ever get re-released. I mean, never say never. Nichijou has getting re-releases of their figures, and Trails is actually starting to get a few more Nendoroids as of late, and they all seem to be releasing some scale figures of Trails characters such as Ren, so at least, I mean, while I can't get the Nendoroid of Ren, I can at least get the scale. I just wish that they would re-release these ones. I don't think it's going to happen, but hey, we can always hope. I just can't justify the prices for this one again. The next one is a series that I absolutely adore, and when I first watched it, it instantly got into my top 10 favourite anime of all time. Shirobako. Shirobako is an anime about making anime, and it's a very good one. I'd really recommend checking it out if you ever get the chance. But the one from Shirobako that I've been wanting for so long is Emma Yasuhana scale figure. Now again, this is one that I don't think is too uncommon. However, 9 times out of 10 when I see her pop up, there's always at least one issue. Those issues being that it's a figure that comes with a handful of accessories. Those being a pencil and some documents. And guess what is always missing or lost? I know there's been one on AmiAmi for quite some time, however it's always missing either the pencil or the papers. And again, while missing items does make figures cheaper, I just can't justify spending that much money and that much shipping to have a broken or incomplete figure. It just doesn't make sense for me. I'd rather not have the figure at all. Now, let's talk exclusives. By which I mean HoloLive exclusives that are just so annoying to be able to even buy. For some reason, despite being a massively huge corporation and fans in the millions around the world, Cover just haven't managed to sort out European shipping. Which is weird because they have one of their talents actually in Europe. So that means pretty much any HoloLive birthday merchandise is somewhat out of my reach. Although I can get a handful of things through proxy, which leads me to stuff that I've missed out on. Namely, Dinosaur Gura. Yeah, I don't know how I missed Dinosaur Gura, but I missed her. And now she is ridiculously expensive just to buy. Now, there are some other alternatives to this one. There seems to be a lot of other alternatives, which, yeah, I can get an unofficial version, but I'm going to assume they're going to look absolutely crap. It's kind of weird coming from a history of anime figures and seeing stuff like plushes, acrylics and utensils being readily available on AmiAmi, to a huge massive franchise being just so difficult to find things for. But yeah, Dino Gura is now a grail. And finally, my next grail is something that hasn't been announced yet. Now, over the years, I've had grails like Coroner, Immortal Sugimoto, Pyra and Mithra, and Hina the Black Cage, where I've said as soon as they appear, I'd buy them. And I did. So to finalise this, I want to talk about a variant of a figure that I own that I would absolutely love to see get a release. That's right, I would love to own a genuine, good figure of Hachama. Now, I'm well aware that Cover like to use Hato as the design, but for me, Hachama was the character design that I got into her with. I haven't really seen much of Hato's kind of work, apart from, you know, live shows and other things like the whole Coexist thing. So I would love a Nendoroid of genuine Hachama version, or a scale, or a Figma, because she is one of my favourite characters, and you know what, I would happily buy the character again to get a Hachama version. She deserves it. Cover, good smile, make it so.